Mobile app, on your Alexa-powered smart speaker, and on TuneIn, iHeart, and on Odyssey. This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. When it comes to the political fallout from that horrific massacre at Covenant School in Nashville, Tennessee, where 3 9-year-olds and 3 adults were murdered, the left has been carrying on all week, basically arguing for fewer guns and more drag queen story hours. That'll fix it. And people, per the pronouncements yesterday, are focused on what White House spokeshuman KJP had to say, reiterating what Mr. 10%, the big guy, had to say: ban assault weapons, renew the assault weapons ban, Republicans are cowards. And socialist Spice Girl Jamal Bowman is running around screaming like a banshee in the halls of power about banning guns and Republicans being cowards. But I wanted to focus on what Tennessee Congressman Tim Burchett had to say, in part because, of course, he's being lampooned for what he said. But here's what he said about congressional action or inaction in response.
So it's a horrible, horrible situation, and we're not going to fix it. Criminals are going to be criminals, and my daddy fought in the Second World War, fought in the Pacific, fought the Japanese, and he told me, he said, buddy, he said, if somebody wants to take you out and doesn't mind losing their life, there's not a whole heck of a lot you can do about it.
He was asked to follow up any role for Congress to play in reaction. He said, I don't see any real role that we could do other than mess things up. He's been there for 5 years, so he's certainly seen Congress mess everything up it touches. I can appreciate that. So that's being pilloried as an abdication of congressional responsibility here. But is it? Is it an abdication? Or is it an example of humility?
It's an honest answer.
Yeah, as I asked earlier in the show, who's more honest, Representative Tim Burchett or the conniving Pauls who demagogue these issues with their sentimental bull jive and phony do-something Jeremiads? That latter group has been promising to fix it, quote-unquote, with gun bans for generations. How's it going? And it calls to mind something I think Tim Burchett is getting at when he says not much we can do to fix it, at least not through legislation, which is the point here. This op-ed, see if this resonates with you. It's entitled Honest Confession. It's the duty of nations as well as of men to own their dependence upon the overruling power of God, to confess their sins and transgressions in humble sorrow, yet with assured hope that genuine repentance will lead to mercy and pardon, and to recognize the sublime truth, announced in the Holy Scriptures and proven by all history, that those nations only are blessed whose God is the Lord. We have been the recipients of the choicest bounties of heaven. We have been preserved these many years in peace and prosperity. We have grown in numbers, wealth, and power as no other nation has ever grown, but we have forgotten God. We've forgotten the gracious hand which preserved us in peace and multiplied and enriched and strengthened us, and we have vainly imagined in the deceitfulness of our hearts that all these blessings were produced by some superior wisdom and virtue of our own. Intoxicated with unbroken success, we have become too self-sufficient to feel the necessity of redeeming all and preserving grace, too proud to pray to the God who made us. It behooves us then to humble ourselves before the offended power, to confess our national sins, and to pray for clemency and forgiveness. All this being done in sincerity and truth, let us then rest humbly in the hope authorized by the divine teachings that the united cry of the nation will be heard on high. You know who wrote that?
I do not.
But it seems like it's applicable to the situation at present in America, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah.
That was President Abraham Lincoln, March 30th of 1863.
He knew.
2 years into the Civil War. Nothing new in this world, just the history we don't know. For more on all of this, pleased to be joined by our friend John Nolte, Breitbart News senior writer. John, thanks for being with us. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it too.
So the politics of mass shootings. Here we go again, as we have this week. What's your reaction to what we've heard and seen, particularly from the White House, members of Congress, the radical left calling for incredibly violence, more in some quarters more violence when they're not just outright ridiculing the victims?
It's just the same old, same old. I mean, we see this every time, and the left is, in my opinion, and this includes the media, of course, they're encouraging the likes of Antifa and Black Lives Matter, these domestic terrorist groups, and now these radical transsexuals to commit violence. These are the left's brown shirts. And the left loves school shootings because they see school shootings. We could stop school shootings, just take all those new IRS agents and put them in schools as armed guards. I mean, the way to stop a school shooting is to put a sign outside your school that says, everyone in here is armed, don't even try it. But instead, we put signs outside of the schools that say gun-free zone, which tells people like this lunatic woman that they're sitting ducks in there, that they can become notorious long before the police can show up and stop them. So the left wants these school shootings because it's the emotional blackmail they need to try and disarm us. And that, of course, is the overall goal. But it's just the same old every time, and nothing's going to change.
The Republican response, I mean, the Tim Burchett response in particular, it seems to me like that may be an opportunity to take it in the direction that I took it, with a little bit of help from Honest Abe there. Like a national conversation. I hate that phrase, but you know what I'm saying. It's the idea of can we address our culture? I mean, this happens at the backdrop of that Wall Street Journal survey came out that finds barely more than half of people think they should have to tolerate views different than theirs. Everything that's important, that speaks to our national identity, that speaks to Judeo-Christian values is on the decline, and everything that is Marxist and materialist, like importance of money, is on the rise. Seems to me this is a perfect time, not that politicians should be theologians, but they can be cultural commentators, and it seems like a good time for some commentary.
Yeah, we need more governors like what Ron DeSantis is doing in Florida, because if this is going to change, it can only happen at the local level. And that's through the things that he is doing to get gay pornography out of the schools, and to have a day where everyone is taught how evil communism is, and to make sure that kids are being taught the basics of American democracy, which is the rights of the individual to live their life however they want. But, people can't look for a political solution to this because guys like Ron DeSantis are very few and far between. I mean, you have to look out for yourself. You have to, you can watch all the Fox News you want and you can send all the tweets that you want, but really what you need to do is create the culture in your own home that you want your kids to be exposed to. And don't send your kids to schools where they teach gay pornography, or where your kids are helpless because they refuse to have anyone in there who's armed. I mean, that's really what has to happen. If you want to...
Well, that's easier said than done for a lot of people.
I appreciate that. I do, but these are your kids we're talking about.
I know. If you're going to fight for anything, fight for your children. I get that.
Yeah, I mean, that's what has to be done. And that's the only solution to this. I mean, sitting around waiting for the politicians to fix it is an absolute waste of time. You need to look out for yourself, and you need to look out for your family. I don't go anywhere anymore without a gun. I spent 8 hours in a hospital this week. It's a gun-free zone, and I had a 38 special strapped to my ankle, because the gun-free zone is the place where you're most likely to get gunned down. You got to look out for yourself, and you got to look out for your family, and stop waiting for a Tucker Carlson monologue to change everything, because it's not going to.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I'll get to a couple of other topics here, including the Alvin Bragg Manhattan jury on spring break. We were on the
that's
precipice of one more witness and one more witness and one more day, and we did that for about 10 days, and now
We're off for a month.
they're going to Daytona Beach or something.
Yeah, it's
long
well.
month.
This is the perfect example of prosecutorial abuse and misconduct. This is a way to keep the legal problem hanging over Trump's head for another month. That's what they're doing here. And whether they, even if they decide at the end not to indict, which it'll be crazy for them to indict, at least in a sane world, it would be crazy for them to indict. This wouldn't be happening in a sane culture. Even if they don't indict, this legal cloud, that's the whole point of this, is to put a legal cloud over Trump's head and hurt his ability to win re-election. That's all that's going on here. It's outrageous.
Do you think that, I mean, this is, complete conjecture, but do you think because there were some on the left that were uneasy about this is the wrong case, particularly to lead with? It undermines the other cases, the other investigations that are pending and potential cases. Do you think maybe there is a coming together of the relevant parties in the parallel investigations to sequence how they want to do things in terms of getting after Trump?
That's probably why they took a break. I think they want to see how this is going to play out over time. Because the overall goal here, other than putting Trump in prison, is to just continue this exhaustion of Trump. I mean, now Trump is in many ways his own worst enemy. He creates a lot of drama, exhausting drama around himself, but only about 25% of it. The rest of it comes from things like this. And I think they just want to just see what happens. What do the polls look like after a month? Maybe they can find something dramatic after a month. Maybe they can get the media on board with some new talking points after a month. So they're not ready to say, no, we're not going to do this, but because they never do that. And it wouldn't surprise me if we went into the next election with this thing still being played out in New York and in Georgia, just to try and put tie an ankle weight around Trump's chances in 2024.
So they want to perpetuate this as long as possible because, and they want to perpetuate January 6th as long as possible, including the telegraphing that as many as another 1,000 people are going to be rounded up by the feds. But this is not because they want to sideline Trump, at least not before 2024, but because they want to advance Trump's interests so he's the nominee in 2024 and they can spend the entire election cycle talking about his legal issues and the quote-unquote insurrection. Is that right?
Right. The talking point's going to be, do you want a president who could be indicted tomorrow? Imagine, okay, he wins the nomination. It's October. We're 3 weeks away from the election, from voting day, and he's indicted. That's what's going on here.
That would, yeah. You think that is something out of like a Jean le Carré spy novel or something, but at this point, can you put even the silliest theories past the Merrick Garlands of the world, past the justice system in so many parts of this country, including at the highest level?
These are the same people putting drag queens in schools. These are the same people that are promoting the mutilation of your children with drugs that destroy their puberty. There's men in dresses telling little girls to cut off their breasts. There's nothing beyond these people anymore. So believe me, an indictment in October of 2024 is unquestionably on the table. It would surprise me if they didn't do it.
And by the way, I'm just speaking of DOJ and the upper reaches of institutions charged with preserving the rule of law. Do you have any updates for us on the Dobbs leak? Have we made any progress on the Dobbs leaker?
Of course not. Of course, we're never going to know the answer to that question. That was another issue where where the whole idea was to break the law, to manipulate public opinion so the left could get their way. There is nothing beneath the left anymore. Their morality is whatever furthers the cause. Look at John Fetterman. Look at what they did to that guy.
He's against fracking.
They almost killed him.
Yeah.
They almost killed that guy. Because that's where the left is at now.
I mean, he's for fracking, I should say. He was against fracking, then he's for fracking, and he made that clear because he said it 3 times. No, I remember. And I'm trying to think like these unsolved mysteries. Like somehow, if we could connect the Dobbs leaker to the COVID virus, to the origination of the COVID virus, maybe we could kill 2 birds with 1 stone on that. I don't know. I don't know how you connect those dots exactly, but maybe we could just say they're all the same. That they all kind of go together, and we'll never really know the answer to either. So just give up, which is essentially what they want to do. This is always them sort of running out the clock to either direct our attention elsewhere or to as you say, to assess the political impact of what they're about to do so that they get maximum benefit.
Yeah, and but the key to that is that there's no morality tied to it. There's no morality at all. They do not care. I mean, they're willing to mutilate our kids. They were willing to kill John Fetterman. They took a stroke victim out there, practically killed the guy. This is what they're willing to do now. This is where we're at. They've unleashed Black Lives Matter and Antifa into neighborhoods that are already on the edge, burning, looting, murdering. This is what we're dealing with now, and there's no morality at all.
And if you point to something and say, why is this happening? They say it's not happening. CRT is not being taught in the schools. We had Austin and Millie before House Committee yesterday saying there are no drag queen. We're not supportive of drag queen shows that are happening on military bases. Millie doesn't know anything about DEI instruction within the ranks of the military, despite banding about these leftist race hustling tomes and having DEI personnel within the Department of Defense, within the Pentagon. But I mean, so all the stuff you see happening, that's not actually happening. That's their response.
Right, and that's part of the PSYOP. They're trying to enrage us, and it gets us on defense. Blatant lie gets us on defense, and it enrages us, and it takes us off. It takes our eye off the ball. It's all part of the plan. It's all part of what they do. And it's getting worse and more blatant, and the more blatant the lie, the angrier we get, and the more unfocused we get, and maybe we'll make a mistake. Maybe our temper will get the best of us. It's all part of the plan.
John Nolte, Breitbart News, senior writer. John, thanks as always. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
This is Chicago's Morning Answer.
Your show keeps me alive during the week. There's nobody I'd rather listen to between 5 and 9 in the morning than you guys.
On AM 560, The Answer.
Fredrickson Fire Equipment Company is proud to support Food for the Poor and AM 560. Fredrickson's skilled and experienced technicians inspect, test, and tag fire extinguishers and fire systems, providing safety and service to thousands around Chicagoland. Fredrickson is family-owned and operated with a strong focus on service, resulting in quick response times and a personal approach to its customers. They can handle all your fire safety needs, whether you're a business owner, an individual responsible for building maintenance, or someone in charge of safety at work. Fredrickson even offers will call service for those who need updated inspection tags on their extinguishers in a hurry. Bring your units to their Wooddale office today at 555 Pond Drive, and they will service while you wait. Allow Fredrickson Fire Equipment Company to keep track of your fire protection needs year-round, so you don't have to. Contact Fredrickson today at 630-595-9500, or schedule an appointment online at fredricksonfire.com. Fredrickson Fire Equipment Company, providing fire protection services to Chicagoland